I think it's important to answer this question from the multiple stakeholder perspective, because ultimately all the stakeholders have one common goal, which is to provide the best employee experience during the hiring process to attract scarce talent with skills and capabilities that we are all competing for. So I think as you think about it from a candidate perspective, it's certainly important for candidates to be better prepared during these virtual interviews and assessments. And since there is so much of digital information available, companies are naked, which basically means that you can Google any company and find out anything about them and their leaders. So it's important for candidates to really prepare well for these interviews, because I think there's far more data and information available than there was in the past. And if you don't prepare well as a candidate, someone else will. So I think that part has changed from a candidate perspective. But I think from a hiring manager perspective, it's also important, like Jesse's been mentioning as well, to conduct interviews, in a structured way to ensure that you're very clear in terms of the behaviors, the competencies or the technical skills that you're looking for. And in my experience as a hiring manager, I think expressing empathy and conducting the interview with empathy, knowing that we've all gone through a very different change in the work environment post-COVID-19, and individuals, maybe not having the bandwidth for their pictures to be clear, or for them to, make sure that they're coming through clearly as well. I think hiring managers can show more empathy in that respect. And then from a recruitment perspective, I also think it's important to build that rapport and be able to sell your organization and be that single link to candidates. And then of course, from the HR side, I think some of the skills that we are looking for is things like the agility, etc. So a lot has changed from those perspectives.
I think what we've tried to do when it comes to remote hiring, especially during COVID, is to rely on a robust process. I think once you have a solid process in place, everything sort of falls in line. Another critical issue that we had to address was trust and communication. To be fair, there's a lot more derived from an in-person interview than over a laptop or a phone or whatever. So getting that shift in mindset, going from a traditional interview where, fine, you've got a couple of rounds where you do it over the phone or on video, and then as a final step, you do something in person. Eliminating that step, looking at the process as a whole, seeing, do we have adequate areas to measure, test, and cover everything so that we're not short-sighted in our decisions? So I think it all comes back to process and communication, at least with what I've experienced so far.
I can go first on that one. I think, really the ability for individuals to work in gray and be flexible. You can call those many things. It could be agility. I think it's that flexibility in the candidates that we are looking for, because we don't know what the future would look like with certainty, and you really want individuals who have that adaptability and the mindset to be able to switch quickly between different business models, for example, whether it's AI, blockchain, digital data, cloud or platforms. I think many companies are changing their business models overnight, and you're looking for candidates who can do that too. So I think, we have definitely evolved to a digital age, and it's not the future, it's the current. So I think using digital social media has been really important for us. So when you think of your careers website and your job adverts, I think it's been important to align the content to our values, our culture, what we stand for, our sustainability initiatives. So everything around the employee value proposition has been strengthened to make sure that that's available on our career site, but also utilizing social media to promote the brand and engage with a broader and wider network of talking about why is it important for us at Zurich to engage in sustainability practices and for prospective candidates to understand what we stand for. I think another important piece has been the retraining of recruiters and managers so that we are all providing a consistent messaging that's aligned to the brand. And I think aligning the consumer brand with the employment brand, or it's actually the other way around, the employment brand with your consumer brand is really important today as well. So that I think candidates really understand your strategy and it's resonated in your brand messaging as well. Most of us are using LinkedIn or any similar platform as well. And so the career sites that we have, not only on our own website, but the career pages that we have on LinkedIn have certainly been refreshed with those messages. And when candidates are preparing for the interviews, we encourage them to go through this content, which is then reinforced through the hiring managers and our recruiters as well. So as I said, I think there's a lot of push towards digital content, and any interviewee, I think should be well prepared going through, a lot of the online content before actually participating in the interview.
So I think what we've done so far, definitely we've leveraged a lot of the product thematic shows in terms of gamification, interview prep, just to give our candidates and applicants a very digital feel to what recruitment looks like. In the Middle East, as a whole, we've been trying to push this, the impact of virtual interviewing, of virtual applications, of candidate tracking aggressively. And I think, unfortunately, not many of us do it as well from a firm perspective. We also invest a lot in our employees. In the UAE, which is primarily a relationship-driven economy, I think word of mouth is your best friend. So we push our employees to be our brand ambassadors. We use a lot of technology to have a very innovative experience. So, for example, when it comes to gamification, while it may not feel like you're doing an assessment, you are, and we want to enjoy it. And what happens is you tell somebody else about it, and they tell somebody else about it. That reaches out and sort of snowballs into a larger audience. You have better retention rates, you have better attraction rates. It may even translate into business opportunities from a commercial perspective. So I think our messaging is very consistent. We know who we want to be. Do we always use the right avenues to send it across? Perhaps, but it's something that we are trying to do. But primarily the focus is on digital, the focus is on the interactions whenever we can. We've sort of, from a recruitment process, from an interviewing process, we've trained our hiring managers to move away from a traditional Q&A, move away from a typical interview setting, so to speak, and make it feel more like a conversation. Just to portray what our values are like and what the experience at KPMG is like. So when it comes to our value to prospective candidates, historically, we've always had options such as flexible work hours, work from home. Obviously, if you're a new parent as well, we've had all these options. Now the issue is, how do we get people to use these things? I mean, you could have 50 different outfits in your wardrobe. You're not going to use all 50 probably, right? So how do we get people to actually take advantage of what we have? How do we send the message that, guys, these are there for you to use? For example, during COVID, in the Middle East was an extremely new situation for us. So we partner with many firms to have counseling sessions, yoga sessions, workout sessions during the really heavy lockdown months to make sure that our people are not losing their minds. So this is what we try to communicate when we're talking about, our value to prospective applicants. It's not just you come and work, theoretically you would spend a lot more of your awake time in the office than you would at home. So are we providing the best environment for you to succeed? If not, what can we do to make that happen? So it's a lot of back and forth, not only from an employee perspective, but we also ask applicants, what would you like to see in your employer of choice? And I think actioning the feedback that you receive is very important to stay competitive in today's market.
I think, there's a few pieces, certainly the flex piece has been something that we've looked at as well. And like Jess has mentioned, there's a number of programs already in place to accommodate that. I think, the latest innovation we've had is that, we've also provided a flex persona. And so in the UK, for example, this flex persona is an individual who can work from anywhere, anytime, and any percentage that they want to as well. And we've seen a huge uptake in terms of changing our job adverts to say that, you could work between 80 to 100% or, any of the other ranges that we offer as well. And we've seen far more individuals applying for those type of roles where it doesn't have to be 100% working. I think another piece of what candidates are interested in is working for a company that has a matching purpose to their own. And I think our sustainability initiatives have certainly been attractive to candidates. Zurich was the first insurance company to sign the UN pledge of 1.5 degrees from a climate change perspective. And I think the work sustainability initiatives we have in terms of, looking to develop talent internally, provide them with careers, and the development as, because you shouldn't only look at recruitment as an external perspective. You should look at it as rehiring your own talent every day as well, so that you're able to retain them and get the most productive out of them as well through that internal value proposition. So I think looking at work sustainability initiatives that provides the skill, the development, the time off to learn are also important. It's a difficult time globally for a lot of applicants and candidates, but I think some of the differentiating elements certainly is ensuring skills for the role remain important, and I think always ensuring that you take the time to learn and you're learning all the time. From a candidate perspective, where you are upskilling yourself, and during COVID-19 we've seen a lot of learning providers provide free trainings in specific areas, whether that's through the Khan Academy, whether it's through Coursera, whether it's through LinkedIn Learning. I think a lot of these learning providers have come to the fore to provide this as free elements. So reskilling and ensuring that your skills are competitive, I think, is really important. I think from an employer perspective, being able to differentiate what is essential versus what is desired in jobs has become more important as well. Because, with so many candidates applying, you really have to figure out what is truly essential. Because at the end of the day, you still have to run a business as well.
What we've done so far is, if you look at the top 1% of talent, how do you then pick one person from a group of 10? I think this is where we rely heavily on psychometrics, on workplace behaviors, on gamification. What can these tools tell us that we cannot find out in an interview? So I think holistically, when you look at a combination of all these factors, it really comes down to who is the best person for the job. And then once you get that short list, is who has the things that we really want to have, who is the things that we like to have. And it's a crude way to put it, but it comes down to a very manual filtration at the end of the day. From what you see before, where you have 10 applicants for one job, it's probably now 150 for one position. So the pool has gotten extremely large, and our processes need to be extremely tight as well. Not in a way to restrict people, but just to make sure that we've got the right people coming in for the roles that we have.